You're listening to the 5-Minute Friday podcast episode of The Aligned Self. This is your host, Daniel J-N-O-V. Okay, 5-Minute Friday, a short and concise podcast episode of The Aligned Self designed to leave you with a question, an idea, a strategy, a tip, a hack, in order to give you greater access to your conscious awareness, evolving your conscious awareness, or give you greater mastery over your mind. Well, friend, welcome to this 5-Minute Friday. In this episode, I'm going to talk about a concept that we rarely examine consciously. It's kind of one of those ideas that we just accept as it is the way it is, and it's rarely questioned. But before I get into that, I wanted to make you aware that in February, there was an alignment, 2/22/2022. It was the last date that a month, a day, and a year ended in the numero 2. It's the last date this century that you'll ever see it. Astrologically, there was Pluto return, and in numerology, 2 is the symbol for a new chapter, a new relationship, a new beginning. And because of this alignment with the return of Pluto, the planet of transformation, and 2/22/22, it signified the full opening of this energetic portal, which supports the expansion of consciousness. And so on this day, I was guided to take advantage of the energy of this opening and record an audio, a guided meditation. Actually, it's a hypnotic meditation, an altered state of awareness. I call it the quickening, and it's designed to access your higher self, to activate your hidden gifts, to expand your conscious awareness. So if you're interested in this, go to yesdaniel.com/activate. yesdaniel.com/activate. And the link is going to be in the show notes. And if you can't quite remember, go to yesdaniel.com and there will be a link there also. But before I released it, I actually wanted to use it myself. I don't do anything out in the public that I haven't, tested in my own laboratory of my mind. And I've listened to it every day, sometimes twice a day. And I absolutely love it. And I could be biased because I created it, but I've done things that I'm not particularly proud of. This is a masterpiece. And so with that said, this episode hopefully will actually leave you with more questions than answers, because I want you to begin exploring the concept of capacity. Capacity is a state of mind. And I want you to explore just what are the limits of your capacity for life, your capacity for money, your capacity for love and happiness, even your capacity for pain. You see, we rarely examine this idea of capacity, how much is too much or how little is too little. We just accept it as a part of our condition, our human condition. We accept it as part of our self-concept. That's what I like. I don't like anything more than that. And you have limits in virtually every area of your life. Many of them are unconscious. How much money are you comfortable with? At what point does it become too much money? More than you can conceive of. More than you are comfortable with. More than I can be comfortable with? Off the top of your head, you might say, I could be comfortable with a lot of money. Are you sure? And since we're talking about money, in my money coaching program, I have people go through and look at their monthly income. What would it feel like to add an additional $1,000 a month? How about an additional $2,000? An additional $5,000 a month? Still feeling pretty good? How about an additional $10,000, $20,000? Does it start to feel a little unreal? Does it start to feel a little uncomfortable? Like it's outside the realm of what is considered normal? Your normal? Let's talk about age for a second. You see, no matter what age you're at, you have a conception of what's possible at that age. What is normal, quote unquote? What's abnormal? How much can you exercise? How easy is it to put on weight or take it off? See, we have these limits that we impose on different aspects of our life. How about fun? Do you have a limit to how much fun is normal? How much fun are you capable of? Can you raise the ceiling, raise the limits of the amount of fun that you're capable of having? Ask the question, how good can you stand it? Seriously, how good can you stand it? How much joy can you tolerate? You see, like it or not, you have acquiesced to some sort of comfort zone where a certain amount feels comfortable, familiar, the known. And anything beyond that feels a little uncomfortable. And these limits to what is comfortable and familiar, have typically been created, set unconsciously, at the subconscious level. Some of them you've just adopted. You inherited it. Someone said this is the way it is, and that's what's normal, and you accepted it as true. The truth is, capacity, again, is a state of mind. And as a human being, and this is going to sound a little weird, but as a human being, you have an infinite capacity to expand your capacity. And really the only thing that limits your capacity is the limit that you have in your mind. At what point does it feel uncomfortable? You see, as a child, you have an infinite capacity to learn language. You are geared and oriented towards learning a language and communicating. You know, as a child, you have the capacity to learn 4, 5 languages, all before the age of 5. Why? Because it feels natural. You have no limit in your mind as a child on how much you can learn. In addition to that, as a child, up until like age 7 or 8, you're in a hypnagogic state. You're basically in trance all the time. And this is the power of self-hypnosis or hypnosis in general, to activate those trance states so you can open up and release the limitations imposed by your conscious mind. From the point of view of conscious control or the conscious mind, as an adult, if you were to consider learning a new language or a couple new languages, it seems a little more difficult than it did when you were 4 or 5. Why? Because you have the belief that it is difficult, or at least it's harder. It doesn't flow as easily. You're kind of rooted in your habitual ways of being. It's familiar, and we don't tend to like things that are unfamiliar. So your current capacity for anything is considered your set point, what you've acclimated to or adapted to. And as a human being, when I said that you have an infinite capacity to expand your capacity, one of the ways we do that is by pushing the boundaries, pushing the limits that you have in your mind to expand your capacity. Let's say money. Let's say you have a set point around how much money is comfortable. Well, you start writing down and playing with bigger and bigger numbers. My wife and I have been considering moving to somewhere bigger in the country, an estate. So we've been watching YouTube videos of ranches and mansions and large properties. $13, $14, $28 million properties, $100 million properties. And then when we find one that has everything we want and it's $7.5 million, we think, God, that's cheap. Look at everything you get for $7 million. Also, in watching these videos, we take aspects of different properties that we just love. It's like, oh, we want that on our new place. So through this process that my wife and I have engaged in, we've expanded the possible. We've expanded the limits of our dream. We're actually dreaming bigger than we ever have before. And in the process of that expanded dreaming, it feels a lot more doable. It feels normal. Where a few years ago, to consider a $7 million property as being a deal would have been like, are you serious? So the question I want to leave you with is, where in your life are you limiting yourself based on the capacity that you feel is appropriate? And then look at that limitation as just an idea that you've accepted as true. Possibly, more than likely, it's not true, and that you can readapt, you can expand the possibility around that area. One mental hack to get around that is act as if. Assume this question. If I were to blow the lid off this limitation, how might I do it? What might be possible? What would happen if I was to take this to the nth degree? You know, as far as I can conceive of, and then even further. What if I was to take the upper reaches of my income limit, what I think is possible, and then 10x it? 10x it. If it's $100,000, what would it be like to have $1 million a year income? If you think that, $1 million is your ceiling, how about 10 million? Just how happy, just how successful are you willing to be? No, something I didn't touch upon is time. What is your capacity for time? How much can you get done in a certain amount of time? Peter Thiel said this: if you have a 10-year plan on how to get somewhere, how to do something, why can't you do it in 6? Said another way, if you were to achieve your 10-year plan in the next 6 months, how might you do it? So that's it. That's it for this episode. This is your friend and host, Daniel Denovi, urging you to follow your bliss. Live your life from inner signals, from be inner directed as you live the epic adventure.